Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's virtual educational program with Cancer Support Community Los Angeles. I am Edlyn Rodarte, and I am the program coordinator at CSCLA. I'm excited to welcome you to this week's webinar titled The 6 Pillars of Brain Health. Before we begin, if this is your first time joining us, Cancer Support Community Los Angeles is a premier nonprofit organization providing vital social and emotional support to families facing cancer, including patients, caregivers, and their loved ones, all at no cost. Our programs include support groups, healthy lifestyle classes, social activities, and educational programs such as this one. If you'd like to learn more about our past webinars or about our services, please visit our website at www.cancersupportla.org. Before I introduce today's speaker, please note that we cannot see or hear you. Your video and microphone are automatically disabled for this webinar. We will not be monitoring the chat room, but you may enter your questions into the Q&A feature at any time. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. We may not be able to get to all your questions today, but our presenters invited to share their contact information at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome today's speaker. Tamar Rothenberg is a registered dietitian nutritionist who specializes in nutrition for breast cancer thrivers in her private practice in Los Angeles. She has a certificate of training in vegetarian nutrition. She cuts through the confusing nutrition information to get your power back. She's an adjunct professor of nutrition at Touro College, and she was privileged to co-facilitate the study with Dr. Shannon La Cava, Coping with Cancer in the Kitchen at Cancer Support Community Los Angeles. At Cancer Support Community and published in Nutrients. Welcome, Tamar. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi there.
Hi, and I will go ahead and let you take it from here.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for being here. I am so excited to be back with Cancer Support Community LA. It's one of my favorite places. So let's get started. I have a lot of good information to share, and I'm going to show my slides here, and we'll get started. So today we're going to be talking about nutrition and brain health. And I'm Tamar Rothenberg, as you heard, a registered dietitian. So let's get cooking and let's get started. This is something that concerns all of us, right? And there are steps we can take to either delay or improve our cognitive health. So let's see what they are. So first of all, we're going to talk about what are some of the takeaways from today's webinar, a short nutrition lesson, and then we'll have a recipe applying the foods that we talked about. And on a final exam, no, I'm not kidding. It's just a knowledge check to see that you got all the information and make sure that you have it all. Okay, so now if you look at the quote on the left, what you put on your plate can help or hinder your cognitive abilities. And this is the author, Maggie Moon, who's also a dietitian, of something called the Mind Diet, which I will go into extensively. So we're going to talk about the 6 fundamental pillars of brain health some healthy lifestyle strategies for supporting brain health, and then, of course, key nutrients that we know play a role in brain health. We're going to talk about the foods and then use these foods in a recipe that I will show you. So brain diseases are very prevalent. They affect 1 in 6 people globally, and they can range from neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, dementia, epilepsy, Parkinson's, movement disorders, and sleep disorders such as sleep apnea. Now, the risk factors, the high risk factor is really age, but there's also other very complex genetic and environmental factors. So there's some things we could do something about, and there's some things that we can't. So given this is Cancer Support Community, I did want to talk about chemotherapy. So I don't think most people realize that chemotherapy affects cognition in close to up to 67% of patients. And that's even higher in the breast cancer community. It's up to 75%. Now, sometimes we call it chemo brain, but it's not strictly from chemo all the time. So we'll just call it foggy brain here. It can be caused by anesthesia, thyroid disorders, even electrolyte imbalance. The cancer itself releases inflammatory molecules, of course, directly by chemotherapy, and then some nutritional deficiencies such as anemia or B12 deficiency, depression, and inflammation, which occurs with many chronic diseases. It's also concurrent with aging or dementia. So it's really hard to tease out sometimes, is it because of chemo or is it because of just the regular aging process? And then genetics. It's very interesting that chemotherapy may affect somebody, may impact them differently depending on their genetics. And that's an area of research right now. So some chemotherapies are worse for chemo brain, and they're listed here. Some of them are breast cancer chemotherapies. The sort of good news is that it does not increase risk for dementia. So there's reason for hope there. And that's from the American Academy of Neurology and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. So one less thing to worry about. So when we talk about the 6 pillars of health, and here they are, do they really make a difference? So there are many studies on this, and the latest review shows that, yes, this really does have an impact on brain health. And some of them are just simple interventions. And the review said that it might prevent, delay, or improve the cognition of brain health, in other words. And so they, the particular order, but exercise really is the top one, makes a huge difference. And it's as you're able. It doesn't mean you have to do what somebody else is doing. So exercise, stress reduction, sleep and relaxation, socialization, medications and supplements, and of course, my area is food and nutrition. So let's use what we have to improve our brain health. So we'll start with exercise. What does it really do for us? So it really has the top benefit of all the approaches, the lifestyle approaches. And it basically affects the other pillars of brain health. So it helps with stress management, sleep, our physical health, of course, our mental health. We know that it releases molecules, endorphins that improve our mood and our immunity function. And how does it do that? So physical activity actually, first of all, it increases blood flow to the brain, which is very important. And it stimulates chemicals and these connections that tend to decrease with aging and protect the brain. So there are different types of exercise that affect different parts of our cognitive health. So for example, aerobic helps preserve our existing brain cells. We want to hold on to what we have, and then promotes the regeneration of new brain cells. And then strength training, which is resistance, it could be weightlifting, enhances focus and concentration, and improves our decision-making skills. So, put this in the chat. Which exercise now promotes new brain cells? Is it aerobic or resistance exercise? Anybody want to hazard a guess? And I can go back if you don't remember. Okay, so let's go back. So aerobic, meaning getting your heart rate up, helps preserve your existing brain cells.
So Tamar, if you click on the Q&A.
Oh, there it is.
bottom,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
We'll
boy,
have
look
answer.
at this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You're all right. And they're both good, really, but thank you for sharing. Okay, now let's go on to stress. What does stress do? Why is it damaging for our brain? And cancer treatments, you can't avoid it. It's definitely going to affect us. We can only learn how to manage it, right? So when we have acute stress, that's temporary. So that's a physical, there's a trigger, and then there's a physical or mental reaction, which can be, physical, emotional, or psychological. And so there's a threat. We have this response of increased heart rate, rapid breathing, and heightened focus. And then in an acute situation, the threat disappears, right? The bear turns around and leaves, and then our physical symptoms subside. And one fact I want to share here is that years ago, chemo brain in breast cancer was not known. And so when women were, explaining they had these symptoms, they were dismissed because they didn't think that chemotherapy affected, got through the blood-brain barrier, and they were seen as just a stress situation. Well, now we know that it is a definitive diagnosis. And it's unfortunate for all the women who suffered and weren't believed at that time. And then another type of stress is chronic, which is, really does happen during cancer treatment. And how it affects the brain, it affects two different parts. So the amygdala, which is involved in emotions and memory, searching for that word. And then the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for memory and learning. So you see there's a direct link to our brain health. Okay, sorry. So what are some management strategies? And I'm sure you have some that work for you. These are very general, but top of the list is practice saying no. You don't have to do everything. Seek professional help for depression and anxiety, which is very common during cancer treatment. Calm the mind. Whatever strategy works for you, could be meditation. Get enough rest and sleep, which I know is very difficult sometimes. Exercise, it could just mean a walk, or it could mean a 30-minute exercise. That's all you need sometimes to release a lot of the stress. And then this is now documented, spending time in nature really has a huge effect. And it could just be a walk in a park where it, lifts the mood, and just being outside and seeing people, that can really help. Is there anything that you've tried that works for you? Was it taking a walk or getting enough sleep? Can you pick one that you think would, or just name something that's worked for you? Walking and sleep. Thank you. Yes. I walk my dog. Yes. That's a wonderful thing. Asking loved ones for help. Yes, that can be very hard, can it? That's a really good idea. Walking, exercise, time in nature, sleep. These are wonderful. Reading. Yes, reading is so relaxing. Tai Chi. Yes, these are great strategies. Thank you. Okay, guess what? Get a pet. That happens to be one of the best strategies, if you can, for preserving cognition. And what they did was, it was a huge study, and it was published in the Journal of Aging and Health, that showed in a population who were above the age of 65, the longer they lived with a pet, the better their cognition. So they didn't state what kind of pet, so just have your choice of pets, but it seems to really make a difference. Okay, so we talked about stress management, so I'm just going to skip this right now. So let's go on to sleep. Now, this is very interesting. So in terms of cardiovascular health, the American Heart Association used to have what's called Life's Essential 7. It was not 8. And this year they added another one. Can you see which one in red? Right? They added healthy sleep as a primary important component of cardiovascular health. So along with a healthy diet, activity, not smoking, a healthy weight for you, and then healthy levels of cholesterol, blood sugar, and blood pressure, they added a healthy sleep. So it really has a huge effect on our cardiovascular health. And how does it do that? So the better your brain function from enough sleep, which is very different for many people, but the average could be 7 to 9 hours per night. And that includes alertness, decision making, focus, learning, memory, reasoning, and problem solving. And I also find with clients that if they don't sleep enough, they tend to reach for the the more comfort foods, because they need that quick energy. They didn't get enough sleep, which makes a lot of sense. But long term, it's not great for our body. So what are some strategies? Obviously, a regular bedtime routine, even on the weekends, a screen-free zone. So what's interesting is that if you put a phone up close, that actually affects your REM sleep, the good sleep. But a TV doesn't seem to do that. That seems okay. Keeping the room cool temperature, treating sleep apnea. Again, going outside in daylight. Why does that affect sleep? Because it affects your what's called circadian rhythm, and it means you're releasing melatonin at night and stopping during the day, which is what helps you sleep. And then nutritional deficiencies need to be addressed. Eating enough carbohydrates, they contain the energy, vitamins, and minerals, and making sure you have enough magnesium, vitamin C, and vitamin B12. These are all things that can interfere with sleep as well. Now, socialization was very interesting because just today, the U.S. Surgeon General released a report saying that loneliness is as dangerous as smoking. And we've known that people live longer when they're more social. So there are many ways to do that, but it involves what does it help? You reduce your stress, you feel connected to a larger purpose, enhances mood, you can better cope with challenges, and you just feel calmer knowing there's a support system. So again, there are many strategies. You probably know what works for you, but you can text a friend to walk. You can join some kind of organized activity, a hobby. Volunteering, people seem to think that really helps. Attending a networking event or planning a group dog walk or a neighborhood event, or participating in a virtual or in-person fitness class. I'm sure you've heard of Peloton. They became very popular during COVID because of socialization. It made people feel connected. And of course, taking medications as prescribed. So certain medical conditions, whether it's diabetes or high blood pressure, these do affect our brain. So to slow the progression of these diseases, of course, take medication or supplements as prescribed by a doctor. And another interesting fact is that people who regularly use laxative, and I'm talking about for many years that they're dependent on them, seems to increase dementia by a high percentage. So it could be that this population already had other issues, or people with eating disorders tend to take a lot of laxatives. So that can affect your vitamin and mineral absorption. So it's something to watch for. And of course, check your thyroid levels, vitamin D and B12 levels, and see if anything needs to be supplemented. So another interesting fact that came out in what's called the Cosmos study, very large study of older adults, that a simple multivitamin mineral supplement does improve memory and cognitive and executive function. So we're talking about just a regular multivitamin, not a high dose of something or an herbal concoction, that seems to really make a difference. And then another supplement to think about if you're not, if you don't like fish or you're not eating enough nuts and seeds, things that contain omega-3s, think about taking a supplement of omega-3s. Of course, clear it with your doctor first so it doesn't interact with anything. But that seems to reduce the risk of both cognitive decline and dementia. Okay, so what are two supplements? Whoops, sorry. What are two supplements that you think may help with brain health? Anyone can think of two supplements or two vitamins or minerals that we talked about so far? Omega-3, very good. Vitamin D, okay, everyone's on top of things here. Vitamin D, B12, nuts, yes, they do contain omega-3s. Omega-3, B12, yes, B12, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so let's get to the heart of this webinar, and it's about food and nutrition for brain health. And I want to bring out a very important long-term evidence for this diet. Now, it's not a fad diet. It's not a weight loss diet. It's a diet actually for cognitive health. So the way we eat does matter for brain health. So what they did was they took the components of a Mediterranean diet, and I don't know if you've heard of the DASH diet, which is a proven way to lower blood pressure, hypertension, and they put that together. And this was studies long-term that were done both by Rush and Harvard universities. And they came out with something called the MIND diet, which stands for Mediterranean DASH intervention. And they are still ongoing. These studies are really showing good evidence of both delaying and improving cognitive health. So, of course, there's a newer and better version, but I will not be talking about this version because this is kind of new. But this new version is called the Green Med diet. And what they did was they took the Mediterranean DASH diet and they added on on my next slide, these things. So they added on more walnuts, I'm guessing for the omega-3s, and then what's called a high polyphenol, which is a plant nutrient green component. So they added on a couple of cups of green tea and a daily green shake called, it was called Mankai duckweed. I'll explain that in a minute, as a substitute for dinner. And then they lowered even lower the minimal red and processed meat and added in aerobic exercise. And this study was done, it was very interesting, in a facility where people could not leave. It was a nuclear facility. So they literally gave them every meal, so they could really control what they were eating. And they gave them free gym passes when they left and things like that. Now, the duckweed is very hard to find. It's really a seaweed, which happens to be very nutritious. But you don't have to eat that. You can substitute these high polyphenol, foods like apples, unsweetened dark chocolate, olive oil, turmeric, and berries. And I'm talking about from food. You don't even have to use these, from supplements. So let's get back to our mind diet. So what they took was the principles of the Mediterranean diet, and which means at the base of every meal was plant foods. Why plant foods? So first of all, just by increasing plant foods, you're increasing magnesium. And most Americans are deficient in magnesium because they're not eating enough plant foods. And increasing magnesium intake by % has been shown to improve brain health, lower your dementia risk, and preserve cognitive ability. And most Americans, the average people are getting is 350, and that doesn't seem to be enough or make an impact on brain health. So fish and seafood, you want to try for twice a week. Those are your omega-3s again. And then moderate portions of poultry, eggs, or dairy, daily to weekly. Dairy really in the form of yogurt. And then meats and sweets, of course, less often. So what are the components that we're talking about for the mind diet? The most important thing are the fats that really help brain and heart health. They go together. So 2 servings of fish per week. Now, you have best sources, and it doesn't matter. You can mix it up. You don't always have to have the same type of fish, but your fatty, fish are going to be best for salmon, tuna, herring, sardines. Now, you don't have to eat fish if you're a vegan or vegetarian. You could increase your nuts like walnuts and seeds, flax seeds, chia, and hemp. And then flaxseed oils, they have an oil that actually contains the lignans, which are very important parts of the flaxseed, walnut, soybean, and then of course tofu and edamame are good sources as well. So you can be vegetarian and still get your omega-3s. You may need a supplement if you're vegan. And then after you have your plant foods, so you want to try to focus most of the time on whole foods. They have fiber, vitamins, minerals, and plant nutrients. So what are the recommended servings? This seems a lot, but let me break it down for you. 6 servings of greens per week. So a serving of cooked vegetables is a half cup. A serving of a green that's not cooked, like lettuce or kale, that would be a whole cup. So we're talking a couple of servings a day. The best fruits and vegetables would be, actually top of the list is berries, seems to make a big impact. And then your leafy greens, if you like them raw or cooked, it doesn't matter. Spinach, kale, collard greens, and broccoli. Whole grains, they contain a lot of minerals and zinc that are important. And you have a lot of choices there. Nuts and seeds. Pumpkin seeds, by the way, contain a high amount of magnesium. Sunflower seeds. And then, of course, your beans and lentils, especially if you're vegetarian, they're a great protein. Okay, well, here's your favorite, spices and chocolate. And what do they have that is so great for the brain? Well, they have these antioxidants called, the compounds are called flavonoids, and they help improve blood flow to the brain and reduce inflammation. And this year, for the first time, they've actually measured flavonoids in foods to come out with a dietary guideline for how much actually improves brain health. So you can include spices like turmeric, cinnamon, and ginger, or include dark chocolate. I'm guessing you're going to go for the dark chocolate. Sorry. I do see questions. Don't worry, we'll get to them at the end. Another way to improve brain health is by what you're drinking. And so we're not talking about alcohol. We're talking about coffee or black or green tea. So these may have coffee if you're able to drink it, if you don't have acid reflux or other issues. It does help improve memory, reduce the risk of dementia. It's a plant food, don't forget. The recommended servings are up to 3 cups of either coffee or black or green tea. And it doesn't matter if it's decaf, it has the same benefits. And these also, by the way, contain the flavonols that we talked about that improve heart health. Okay, wine. What do you think about wine? Remember when they told us it's really good for our heart and we should drink wine in moderate amounts? Well, that's been thrown out the window, especially there was a new study done that followed people for many, many years from young age to older age, and there was no cardio protection for even moderate use, especially for those who have been through cancer. It's not recommended. So what is the compound though? There is a compound called resveratrol, and that's found in the skin of red grapes. So you could eat grapes and still have that protective compound. This helps reduce cell damage. And also, as we know with Alzheimer's, there are possibly plaques in the brain. So this resveratrol, which is also found in peanuts, can protect against the formation of plaque in the brain. Okay, whole grains, which I know there's a low carb trend. We don't want to go too low carb. We do want to include some great sources of whole grains, whether it's oats, brown rice, wild rice, quinoa, barley, or farro. These have energy producing vitamins and minerals. The B vitamins, they're involved in metabolism. They actually help to repair DNA. You can see this list here of everything they do. They're antioxidants and reduce the harmful effects of free radicals. They create neurochemicals, which are important for brain health. So the recommended serving is going to be very individual. So here, what they recommend generally is 3 servings of whole grains per day. So that's 1.5 cups cooked. And you could easily do that by having oats in the morning and then maybe a side dish of grains for lunch or dinner, or even a whole wheat sandwich. So some other vitamins that are very important are going to be vitamin D. We do find that more people diagnosed with brain disorders have low levels of vitamin D, including breast cancer. That's been found. It doesn't mean it's the cause. It just means that these people have low levels of vitamin D. But not everyone absorbs vitamin D in the same way. There's not enough you can get through food, so it does have to be supplemented if it's low, and there's plenty of, depending on what your labs are, you can work with your medical team to find out how much you actually need to supplement. And let's move on to fats. So we're not talking about low fat. We're talking about limiting certain types of fat. So one of them is saturated fat. Think about the fats that are solid at room temperature, right? Butter, margarine. So these high saturated fats are linked to Alzheimer's, and that includes meat and processed meat, which is generally recommended to avoid anyway for general health and especially for people diagnosed with cancer. Dairy products, the whole milk, fluid milk, the hard cheeses and butter. We're not saying never have it, just kind of lower your servings. So the recommended servings according to the MIND diet are less than 4 servings of red meat unprocessed per week. So just think of having like a vegetarian meal, a Monday, meatless Monday, or one meal a day that's vegetarian. See how that feels. So just to sum up, you do want to support brain health with smart daily lifestyle choices, balanced nutrition. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to eat better and choose certain foods that really affect your brain health. Make sure to treat any depression, anxiety, and sleep problems, including sleep apnea, and check for nutritional deficiencies. That's going to be very important. Okay, so what are 2 of the 6 fundamental pillars of brain health? Can you name them? Give you a little time here. Remember, there are 6. Exercise, yes. Sleep, yes. Exercise and stress reduction, yes, very important. Eat healthy, exercise, sleep healthy, yes. Exercise, stress reduction, yes. People tend to dismiss socialization, but it is very important. Sleep and exercise, socialize, sleep and stress reduction, nutrition. Thank you. Okay, great. Your brains are all working here, right? Okay, sorry. Let's get cooking. I'm gonna first show you that we're doing, and then a video of what we call a hands and pans, like you'll just see somebody's hands making the recipe. So let me share my recipe here, which we'll go over in detail. And so this is easy lemon garlic cod recipe. I call it fast food because it literally the prep time is 5 minutes and then the cook time is 25 minutes. So in a half an hour, you have a main dish, with a side salad or a vegetable, makes a complete meal, or maybe a now I chose cod. Yes, you can make salmon, but some people don't want salmon all the time. So cod has kind of a flavorless profile, not as fishy as other fish. So it's more enjoyable for certain people, or especially if you're in treatment. So you probably have these ingredients in your pantry, right? So if you have lemons, garlic, olive oil, you will need 1.5 pounds of cod, and then 2 tablespoons of parsley. You can change that up with dill. I also add capers to this recipe. It looks very pretty and it adds a little more flavor. So all you're going to do here is preheat your oven to 400. Here's the hard part. You're going to slice 1 lemon and squeeze the juice from the other, and then mince or press the garlic. You're going to whisk that into a dish, and I suggest putting the fish into a glass dish. And then pat the cod dry, season with salt and pepper, And then make sure to flip the cod in the glass dish so it, soaks up all that yum. And then as you see here, you're placing the lemon rounds on the fish and bake it about 20-25 minutes. And at the end, you'll drizzle with the pan juices right before serving and sprinkle your fresh parsley or dill. Okay, let me get back to our PowerPoint. And I'm going to start it here. So this is our fresh cod. Sorry. These are all the ingredients. That's it. Want to use a juicer, it makes things easier. Now you're just, so I just use a fork. You can just use a fork. You don't have to use a whisk after you press your garlic. Here you're patting your cod dry, seasoning it. It's already looking pretty. And now you flip it over. You're placing your lemon slices, and that's it, you're done. You bake it, and dinner is ready. What do you think? Do you think you'll make it? It looks very pretty. And of course, you can always make salmon too, but this just, makes it a little different. It's a nice dish for during the week or on the weekend. It's fast prep. And you're getting your fish servings in, right? Love that cod recipe. Thank you, sis. Yes, thanks. Yes, of course. So I hope you feel it, gives you a little more flexibility in your cooking. Looks delicious. Thank you. Yum, easy, and nutritious. Yes, it is very nutritious, and it's filling too, which I think is wonderful. That's a good, easy recipe to do. Yes, thank you. I tried to find something that looks gourmet, but doesn't involve hours in the kitchen, right? We don't need that. Thank you. Okay, so this is my new book. It was just published last year, Cancer Diet for the Newly Diagnosed. You can also buy it as a gift, but it has 70 recipes. Many of them are very easy, like the one I've shown you. It's available on Amazon, wherever books are sold, so look for it. It's also a guidebook besides being a cook. And here's where you can connect with me on my website. I do have a weekly blog on nutrition for breast cancer. That's my email. I do have an Instagram account called breastcancer.nutritionist. And I have a Facebook group it's a private group for those diagnosed with breast cancer. I also want to make sure you know that I work with a group called Share It that offers free nutritional counseling for anyone diagnosed with breast or ovarian cancer. And there's a new cohort now opening. I do the one-on-one counseling. There's another dietitian you can choose who does the group masterclass. So take a look at that or look for the link. Okay, thank you so much. Let me just close this off.
Thank you, Tamar. That was such a great presentation.
Thank you.
I learned so much about brain health, so that's good. So let's go ahead and dive into the questions because we did have a few questions that came in.
Sure.
The first one is going to be, what's the best way to get omega-3 from plant-based foods?
Oh, right. So I did talk a little about it. It's just you have to plan it better than, if you are eating fish. It doesn't mean it's not doable. You just have to be cognizant of getting enough, because your body has to transform certain nutrients into omega-3. So your best choices would be nuts and seeds like flax seeds, chia and hemp I talked about, walnuts, but you may need to supplement as well. And there are vegan supplements made from like sea moss, argan oil. It's easy to find and easy to get enough.
Okay, thank you. And then somebody asked, which you might have touched upon this as well, but what are good food sources of magnesium in plant-based foods? And does magnesium help patients with existing dementia?
Sorry, you cut off, so I didn't, or it might be me, but I didn't hear the whole.
Oh, okay, yeah, let me go ahead and
Okay,
repeat it.
sorry. Yeah.
So it says, what are good food sources of magnesium in plant-based foods? And does magnesium help patients with existing dementia?
Okay, I didn't hear it again, but I heard magnesium, so let me talk about that first.
Okay.
That would be any kind of leafy green has magnesium, and most plant foods have magnesium. Pumpkin seeds are a very good source. I think I spoke about that. So as long as you're eating plant foods, if you look online at the DASH diet, that's for hypertension. The goal is to increase magnesium and potassium, and they have a list of foods too. It's online, I think on the NIH website. It is a government-sponsored diet.
Okay. And I don't know if you heard the second part, but it says, does magnesium help patients with existing dementia?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good, interesting question. I wouldn't know the answer to that. If you're already diagnosed, if it may help to that extent. It's more about preventing or delaying. On the MIND diet, they actually did tests on people that their brains were younger, so they actually delayed aging. But once you're diagnosed, I couldn't be sure and tell you that.
One question came through that says, what do you think of stevia, erythritol, and monk fruit?
So those are 3 different sugar substitutes. So anything that ends with OL is a sugar alcohol, which some people, it bothers their digestion. So if that's the case, avoid it. So these are still seen as safe. I know there's been a lot of talk about whether there was some studies on erythritol, which turned out they weren't good studies, and there's actually no problem. Now, do I think you should have it all the time? No, I think there are better foods to have. If you're going to choose a sweetener, probably monk fruit, because it is derived from more natural sources. It's a fruit. And make sure it's by itself, because they tend to sell it now mixed in with other sugar substitutes. But it's very helpful for people with high blood sugar, and they still want something sweet. So it's still an option.
Okay. One question came through. What additional tests can I ask my primary doctor to do besides my regular blood panel to be sure I'm processing and getting vitamin and minerals that are needed for proper nutrition to keep my hormone-positive breast cancer at bay?
Right. So you have to ask now for vitamin D. It's still covered, but you have to ask for it. They don't do it automatically. So that's a very important vitamin, which acts like a hormone. So I would do that. B12, depending on your age, if you're over 50, you probably do want to test it. Or if you're a vegan, you can ask. It's a simple blood test as well. Omega-3s and things like that, you don't really need to check. Of course, if you have symptoms of anemia, it depends on your symptoms, right? Neuropathy. So these are things you would ask your doctor about, and there are different vitamins and minerals to test for. But number one would be your vitamin D levels. That's going to be important.
Okay. And then one question came through. Let me see. They said that, well, I guess we had a couple of questions regarding chemo brain and how they can improve in that area. Like, what can they do to improve their chemo brain?
So everything I talked about, the 6 pillars of health, are going to help as well for chemo brain. Of course, like I said, it goes along with aging. So it's hard to tease out what's directly from chemo and what's from, normal aging process. But there was a study done in breast cancer patients that premenopausal breast cancer patients tended to go back to baseline and faster. So they did go back to baseline, and postmenopausal, it was a little slower, and not everyone went back to baseline. Now, we can't say that's because of chemo, but that seems to be what we're seeing in that population. Is that helpful, I hope?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if you can answer this, but somebody did ask what they can eat or include in their diet for neuropathy. I'm assuming like neuropathy pain.
Yeah, that's going to be different than, brain health. But you do want to focus more on the B vitamins. That seems to help. And there are supplements that you can ask your doctor about that are helpful for neuropathy. So definitely check with your dietitian or doctor about those. I can't advise you here, but there are definitely supplements, especially if you go through chemo. You may want to, there are certain supplements that are safe to take that may also help prevent neuropathy. So, the B vitamins, they're going to be your whole grains, depending on what your, if you have any chronic conditions like diabetes. So that's something you could work on with your dietitian, the portions of those that are safe for you, but, focus on those B vitamins.
Okay, that's great. We do have a few more questions. One that came through during registration. So they said they're on the keto diet and they've heard mixed messages about benefits of keto for brain health. They would like another nutritionist opinion about keto.
So it depends on what your goal is, right? What's your health goal for the keto diet? I don't know. It does seem to have, it was originally developed for children with epilepsy that couldn't be treated, with medications. And so it was really meant for that. Now it's evolved into other things, which we don't have a lot of research on, but it seems to help with one type of brain cancer, glioblastoma. On the other hand, we have to watch out for side effects like constipation and, possibly nutrient shortfalls. So it really needs to be done well. Whether it's helpful depends on what. So for weight loss, we don't see a difference whether it's keto or any other diet, because within a certain amount of time, you regain the weight back. If it works for you and you're doing it properly, you're not missing out on any nutrients, that's fine. But again, for brain health, I haven't seen any studies that say it would, promote or prevent, Alzheimer's or something like that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. And then one last question. It's kind of dealing with, in that realm. Does daily intermittent fasting, like an 8 to 10 hour eating window, have any adverse effects on brain function?
Oh, sorry, I lost you again.
Oh, okay. It says, does daily intermittent fasting, like 8 to 10 hour eating window, have any adverse effects on brain function?
Oh, that's an interesting take. I usually hear like, what does it do?
Yeah.
Um, so, it's going to be very individual. It's not going to be recommended if you're missing any nutrients, if you're losing weight, eating disorder. These are for those, conditions, definitely that doesn't help brain health. Does it affect brain health? I don't know if it's been studied really for brain health. It's been more studied for other conditions like digestive, longevity, possibly. It depends on what kind of intermittent fasting you're doing. There's a nightly 13-hour fast. There's the 3 or 5 day, low, 500 calorie 3-day fast. So it depends on what kind you're doing. And of course, if you're going through cancer treatment, it's something you need to definitively ask your medical team. So again, I can't say overall it's great because we don't have, I haven't seen studies that it affects brain health in that way. But it is a good idea to always let your body rest, and that's sleeping as well.
Mhm.
But to let your body rest its digestive function, and it does seem to help a lot with gut health, which does affect our brain. So it makes sense in some way that it would affect our brain health, but it depends how you're doing it. And again, if you're doing it properly, there's a lot of um, misinformation in the media about it, and I get concerned about people doing it incorrectly and then missing,
Mhm.
having a shortfall of nutrients.
Yes, definitely. We had two more questions, if that's okay. Somebody asked if there's ways that you know of to increase serotonin.
Exercise. That is the best way. There's let's see, I'm trying to remember the organization. I think it's the ACL, American Sports, something like that, where they have a wonderful chart on how much exercise you need to address things like anxiety or depression, along with medications. But that seems to be how it helps, is through the release of serotonin. So find something you love to do and do it every day.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And then the last question is, do the Mediterranean and DASH diets also help heal gut health and or digestive imbalance?
Yes, I'm good. Great. Yeah, it makes me think about, all the digestive conditions out there. It really is going to be very individual. So if you have IBS, there are certain vegetables you can't have. So it has to be customized for you. But yes, it is a better way to eat for many, many different reasons. It will help gut health and digestive health just because you're also eliminating foods that are damaging, like processed meats and over eating on meat, not in general, and increasing your fruit and vegetable intake. But again, it depends on what else is going on in your body and how you can digest certain foods.
Yeah,
And genetics can play a role as well. We're seeing more and more research around that. We're getting to a point of more precision nutrition, which is very interesting. What works with your genetics.
yeah, that's exciting.
It is, but there's not enough there yet. So
Yeah, yes. Well, thank you so much, Tamar, for your time, for this great presentation, for your expertise. I know our community is very grateful for everyone attending tonight. Thank you so much for joining. We did record this webinar. It will be up next week in our video library. You can just go to our website at www.cancersupportla.org, which I'm putting in the chat. If you have any questions about Tamar's new book, which is The Cancer Diet for the Newly Diagnosed, you can always send us a message at info, or send us an email at info@cancersupportla.org. We could also provide you links and Tamar's email as well if you want to send us an email to our info account. And again, thank you so much to everyone and to Tamar, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Go have your brain healthy dinner.
Yes, yes, definitely. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much.